You're listening to a proud member of the FightFans Radio Network.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Brand new episode, FanAddicts MMA Show here on FightFans Radio. I am your host, Erica Lewis. I am joined, of course, by my partners in crime, Justin Cohey and David Wolf. Hey, guys, what's up? What's going on?
Hey, what's up?
What's going on?
Not a whole lot. There's a lot going on in MMA, though, and hopefully we can cover all of that in the 2 hours we have. So we should be able to do it. We should be able to cover it all. But we have a list of topics to talk about. But one of the things that I really wanted to touch base on was an article that was written earlier this week by Jeremy Blotter, who is
Botter.
Is it Botter? Jeremy Botter. I can't even get his name right. Sorry, Jeremy. Not that he's my friend now or anything, but he wrote this article about the it's ABC. It's the Association Boxing Commission, some bullshit like that. Apparently, they're the ones that determine what the rules are going to be for MMA and for all combat sports. And some things that they go ahead. I'm sorry, Justin.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought you said something. So they apparently had a meeting. It's like they have an annual meeting. They had a meeting, and they instituted some changes that I thought were interesting, but not really as insightful, I think, as Jeremy thought they were. And I had a little bit of a Twitter conversation with him, and he seemed really unwilling to discuss the article that he wrote. But the title of the article, I can tell you that right now. It's on BleacherReport.com, and it is entitled UFC Rules, New MMA Judging Changes a Positive Step. And I think we can all agree, we've talked about it a million times on the show, that there needs to be some sort of change with MMA judging. But I think I don't think the rules themselves need to be changed per se, other than more detailed. There needs to be a clarification on some of these rules. But it seems like they actually outright changed a few of them, but I'm not sure the impact is quite as important as Jeremy pointed out. So let's talk about this real quick. I sent the link to you guys. Were you able to read the article?
I didn't get a link from you, but I had already read the article.
All right. Well, give me your initial impression of the article that Jeremy wrote. Am I crazy, or did he seem to be waving a flag of victory way too soon?
I don't know if he was necessarily waving a flag of victory, but I do think that his views on its what overall impact it's going to have on the sport, I thought was a bit overstated. I mean, I don't have a list of the rules in front of me, but I think
I have them right here. Do you want me to read them?
Yeah, go ahead. Just for people who haven't read the article, probably
if you haven't read the article, here are the list of changes that they made, and the meeting was in Clearwater, Florida, and I guess this was last week. So here are some of the changes. Effective defense is no longer a criteria for scoring. Striking and grappling have been given equal weight. Heavier strikes will be given more weight than number of strikes landed. Grappling moves that are scored heavily, takedowns, reversals, submissions, transitions, activity, and threatening moves from the fighter on the bottom, and attempted submissions that lead to the threatened fighter being tired. Effective aggression is now defined, and control is also defined. Now, those last two, I think, are actually the most positive steps in this list of changes. But go ahead, Justin. Kind of continue to give us your thoughts on this.
Well, I think in the end, I believe what you were alluding to, Erica, is like they can make all the rules and define things all they want, but if judges aren't educated on the sport as a whole, or have a good understanding of the nuances of, say, especially the grappling portion of the fight game, then I'm not entirely sure all these rules are really going to have that much of an impact. I mean, it's like for some reason, having a term that says resulting in the fighter being tired. I mean, I was like, well, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
I mean, tired could be, the result of a bad weight cut. It doesn't have anything to do with the fight.
Yeah.
To me, that's far too encompassing of just a load of BS, and it talks a lot without saying much, essentially. I don't know. I tend to decide with you. I saw your conversation with Jeremy Botter, and I thought it was kind of interesting that he kind of, in the article itself, he kind of opens it up. It's like, oh yeah, here's my Twitter. Let's talk about this. And then when you kind of took a view that wasn't necessarily his, and he got kind of defensive about it and said, I'm not up for Twitter debates or Twitter, all day discussions. I was like, well, if you don't want to have discussions, then don't make it an option in your article. Yeah, I mean, people are going to disagree with your writing. I'm sure people disagree with anything I've ever written. I don't give a shit. I wrote it. I was happy with it. If people didn't like it, oh well. But at the end of the day, if the judges don't understand grappling, don't understand takedowns, don't understand particular submissions, then none of these rules mean shit. And that's my take on the whole situation.
And David, I don't know, you've been kind of quiet, and I don't know if you had a chance to actually look at this article before I go over some of my problems with it. Did you have an opinion on this article and what we're talking about in general?
I didn't see a link from you on Botter's article. I did see something else from Meltzer going over the changes, and I tend to agree with both of you that the impact will not be that great. But I think they're positive changes to remove effective defense, so you don't have to have these arguments over whether a stuck takedown is worth points. It's not. And to equalize striking and grappling when striking was given greater weight. I think those are positive changes.
So okay, so here's my issue with that, and that's actually two issues that I have the biggest problem with right there. Effective defense is no longer a criteria for scoring, and I think that's absolute bullshit. I don't think effective defense was ever considered criteria for scoring. I don't ever remember there being a fight where a guy has been, or a grappler, let's say, has tried to take down a guy 15 times in a fight, and he fails 14 of those times. He gets that one takedown, and that's all that matters. So
was that specifically? Are you saying they amended a rule that didn't exist?
I'm saying that I don't ever recall that if that was a rule, it was never enforced.
Or judging criteria, not really rules.
Well, but judging criteria that I've ever seen being enforced to begin with. So why amend something that has never actually been enforced? That's the best example I can give there, and we could probably point to a dozen fights off of the top of our heads where that has been the case, where a fighter has defended something for the entire fight. The grappler gets the takedown in the last minute of the round, and who gets the round? The grappler. So where has effective defense as a criteria for judging? Where has it ever been a problem? You first have to tell me where it's ever actually been applied, and then we can talk about if that's been a problem or if that was a need for it to be changed to begin with. And I disagree with the notion that effective defense shouldn't be counted towards a fighter. That in itself is a technique. Do they not train that? Is that not something that you have to learn how to do? So why is that not being able to stop a guy from imposing his will on you should be considered as a part of, if there is a quote-unquote point system here that the judges are using, that most certainly should be used towards the fighter defending it. So, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say that if a person is defending the takedown throughout a fight, doesn't that kind of go to control, which is a kind of an area where you can gain points in?
Failing to impose a technique on somebody, you think that should be rewarded? I mean, that's essentially what it is. A failed takedown is the failure of one fighter.
The defense of the takedown is imposing control of where the fight is taking place.
Yes, absolutely. Just as much as taking somebody down is controlling where the fight is taking place, I think defending where the fight, defending against that kind of technique should be used as scoring points for the fighter that's defending the technique. But I'm annoyed that this was something that Jeremy Botter pointed out as being a check in the win column for MMA. Where again, where have we ever actually seen this being implemented? Have we ever seen a fight where a guy has been defensive the entire fight and actually gotten anything for it? If anything, the guy who is on the defense the entire time loses the fight 9 times out of 10. Very rarely do we ever see a fighter win a fight from the bottom, except for the most recent one, of course, being Eric Koch versus Jonathan Brookins, where Brookins was on top the entire time, but he wasn't able to actually do anything with it. He essentially was using it as a way to kind of get away from Koch's superior striking, and then was on the ground with some really seriously. He had serious problems with him on the ground as well as Koch was throwing up lots of submissions and catching him and whatnot. And I think that was the right decision in that fight by far. But that is, I think all of us were surprised that the judges actually saw it that way and gave the fight to Eric Koch. Am I crazy here, or?
I don't remember Brookins actually getting the takedown a lot in that fight. I remember him them struggling against the cage a lot. And
he definitely got the takedown in that fight. That was.
Well, I'm not disputing he didn't get one takedown, but I don't think he spent a whole lot of that fight on top of Eric.
If I remember correctly, he spent a great deal of it either clenched up against the cage or on the ground on top of Koch.
I just remember them being pushed up against the cage and Brookins struggling for takedowns the entire fight and being very unsuccessful. And I thought I tend to think that's why he was given, or the nod went to Eric, because he defended nearly every single takedown.
So I'm actually going to, for the lovely people at Fight Metric, have provided us with quite a comprehensive list of fighters and the fights that they've been in. I can actually look up the fight itself and see how many takedowns how many takedown attempts Brookins had, and how many he was actually able to land in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just remembering the fight differently. I don't know.
Here we go. I actually found the fight. And that was UFC Fight Night 25. Wow, that had to have been a record right there. You're right. He only did take him down once. There were 20 attempts total in that fight by Brookins. But you can't argue that Koch was not spending most of that fight defending these things. I mean, 20 takedowns. He defended 19 of them successfully. And the judges saw that as working in favor of Koch instead of being either completely null or working for advantage of Brookins actually trying to take him down. So I don't, he did get, Brookins definitely got outstruck, and that was part of the reason why he kept trying to take the fight down to the ground, was that he was just completely getting outstruck on the feet. There was a lot of clinch work in that fight, a lot of of it where Brookins would be considered having the advantage. But the judges were able to see past that in that particular fight for some reason. So,
well, I think that just goes to the education of those particular judges.
Yes.
Because I think the big difference in, say, that fight and then maybe the way Shane Carwin or Randy Couture fought, when they pushed someone, or Dan Henderson does this as well, when they push someone up against the cage, that's a time for them to be offensive with, dirty boxing, and going back and forth between striking, position, and attempting the takedown. I think in Brookins' case there, it's that he wasn't doing anything else except going for the takedown and failing fairly miserably. So I think the judges often confuse the two, where there's clinching and there's position change and dirty boxing and some actual offense, versus we just happen to be against the cage because this guy's defending my takedown.
Right, absolutely. Let's talk about another one of the rules that they brought up that I thought was just utter ridiculousness. Striking and grappling have been given equal weight. So we've talked about this before in the show before. In terms of judging, striking was first, then grappling. And in terms of their hierarchy, that's how it's been. And now they're saying they're giving them equal weight. How many times have we complained that despite a grappler getting outstruck on the feet, he gets the takedown and he still wins the fight? I mean, a lot.
I think we've complained a lot, and I think that's because judges were giving more deference to takedowns.
Yes, and so why?
But that would be the opposite of what the rule stated.
Yes.
This is Erica's point. The rule is stating that you should give more deference to striking. And Erica's point is that it's been about equal, or if anything, grappling's been favored. So why change the rule?
Yeah. That's exactly, David. That's why you're on here, David. You're here to interpret my bullshit. But yeah, so why was this a necessary change? Why did this have to happen when probably one of the biggest complaints in MMA judging right now is that they give way too much weight to grappling?
I think maybe it's one of those things where they've gotten so many complaints about it and it's probably not something that needed to be stated because it was so blatantly obvious. But again, we're dealing with a commission that is covering essentially two sports. We're using a judging system that's used primarily for a sport that's all stand-up, and then we're trying to transfer it over to a sport that has way more than just stand-up. So maybe it's just maybe stating the obvious, just because the judges weren't smart enough to realize it.
Well, then none of the judges are smart enough to realize it. Then it's just an overall ignorance across the board. And when that's it.
But
I think by quote unquote making them equal weight, I think that's going to put strikers at an even greater disadvantage. Where if at the first hand they were supposed to have a slight advantage over grappling, now they're quote unquote equal, they're going to have an even more disadvantage to grappling. I think in the cage, and that is not. I don't think that helps with the judging. I don't think that helps with the fights. Not that we need to. Not that we need to be telling fighters how to win their fights. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what a fighter wants is a W. But I feel like this might even encourage more lay and pray than anything else. If striking has always been caught at this disadvantage to grappling before, then this is just going to be an absolute clusterfuck.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I do think that that there's definitely been a deference towards the grappling end of things. And even when we're saying grappling, we're even probably discussing more so wrestlers than anything. But I think if you're making an attempt to clearly state that both of these things should be treated equally, I think that's not a bad thing to say. Maybe just because judges were giving more deference or scoring grappling higher doesn't necessarily mean that they were supposed to be doing that. I think that's just them
No, but that's the point.
Going by their own opinion.
That's the point, Justin. The point is that the judges were already giving grappling more weight. So now you're saying, hold on a second, we actually have a call right now. Caller, who are we talking to?
John Tackett.
What is going on, Mr. John Tackett?
I just thought I'd call in and say hi. Interesting discussion we've got going today.
Well, what are your thoughts, John? John is quite the MMA elitist, in my opinion. He's got a business. He knows everybody. If they don't know John Tackett, they don't know anybody. So,
do I owe you money, Erica? I don't think I do.
We'll talk about that off air, John. And I do take PayPal just for clarification.
Oh, wow. I think that one of the biggest things that we can look at with the grappling and with this, MMA, and I think David probably touched on a little bit, is it's really hard when you're taking, or maybe it's Justin, you're basically taking a sport that's mixed and trying to apply one set of rules. And the difficulty with grappling, I think, is much should fall back into the referees' training and not the judges.
Right.
Because if you coming as a wrestler, if I took somebody down and was just laying there holding them, and I wasn't trying to advance my position, and all they were doing is defending against one move, and just sitting there, then the referee stops it. And you put them back in a disadvantaged position, or you do something, or you get warned for stalling. If you're just stalling, then obviously stalling. Like you said, with laying brace, some guys take people down and then just grab there. Or you see some strikers, they pull guard, they reach up, grab the head, and just hug it against their chest. They don't try to escape. They don't go for submissions. They don't do anything, and they're both just basically stalled out. You warn them for stalling. And, I think that puts it in the manner I think we need to train referees to say, hey, there has to be action. You're not just going to sit here and lay there and pray or run around the cage or, I think it comes into that. But again,
are you talking about almost like a Pride's card system, like almost like a yellow card situation?
Yeah, you can go that route. We started seeing it lately where, I forget the recent fight when the referee's like, hey, you're stalling. If you keep doing this, I'm warning you. I'll take a point. And I was just like, when I saw that, I was like, whoa, wow.
I do remember that. That was fairly recently, wasn't it?
It was, and I can't remember in the haze that has been the last few weeks.
I'm trying to think. Could it have possibly been the fight between? I
want to say Big John was the ref, maybe.
Well, I know there was a fight at San Jose between Dan Stigen and some Brazilian guy whose name I will not even attempt to pronounce. But the No, it wasn't at all. It was another guy. It was his debut in the UFC, and they literally spent 98% of the fight clinched up against the fence. And
but neither of them was really doing anything.
No,
and it was just like, hey, if you guys don't do something, I'm warning you. And I was just like shocked. I was like, whoa.
It sounded much like a father scolding his son, didn't it? He was like, look, you need to stop this crap.
For me, it's like boxing. The lay and pray guys, and I'm a grappler. But the lay and pray guys, to me, is like the old in boxing when you'd see somebody who got hit a couple times and didn't want to get hit or was tired, when they just clinch up and tie up and push each other around the ring, and neither one of them are really striking or doing anything. And the referee steps in, breaks them up, and makes them fight. If they keep doing it, they get a warning. Maybe they use a card system. Maybe they just, simply, hey, you've been warned. Like in wrestling, I get a warning. The guy's like, warning red or whatever. And the next time around, it's like, if he stops the match, point, blue.
Right.
Well, if we're talking about getting the referees more involved, aren't we getting? And I'm not saying this was necessarily true. I'm just I would be concerned that all of a sudden then we're getting into Mazzagatti territory, or some of these other local judges, whereas as soon as there's a takedown and the guy is maybe working for a control that the ref's in a bad position doesn't see, and he stands them right back up, not allowing the guys any time.
Right. I've seen some bad, what I thought were bad stand-ups lately in a couple fights where guys were acting on the ground. They weren't doing massive damage, but they're punching. They're trying to get past guard. And the refs were quick to stand them up. And but to me, it's no difference. Like, okay, so you're tossing out jabs that mostly aren't hitting, and maybe you're tapping my arms. What are you really doing? You're doing the same thing as a guy that's working a little bit on the ground to pass guard, but not really doing much. I mean, you're still stalling. You're not really engaging in an attempt to better your position or set up another strike. You just kind of put in. I mean,
well, what about like the Roy Nelson Arlovsky fight, where Roy Nelson's essentially got the beginnings of the Kimura cinched in, and then they get stood up.
That was awful. Oh my God, that was.
Yeah,
horrendous.
no, and that's just it. And that, to me, I mean, it's like one of those things. I mean, we could probably debate it forever, and it comes down to, it's the referee stood it up, but at some point we got to say, hey, if we're putting in the referee, he's qualified to do his job. We have to hope he knows his job. And there's usually, and a lot of other sports, football or even in boxing, I believe they have a system or not a system, but a thing set up where it's reviewed, where referees are reviewed and evaluated on their performance as well. And, you can get tagged with fines, you can get suspended and not allowed to, ref and that type of thing, which is, I guess it's a little different for MMA because, with the referee and a lot of these other professional sports, they make a decent income doing that. And it's, but, trying to put it on the judges, especially a judge, you get one who's one-sided, you take somebody who was a grappler, jiu-jitsu guy or a catch fighter. They're going to, a lot of times, even if it's subconscious, lean more towards giving more credit towards maybe some of the grappling or grappling defense. And you get a guy that's a boxer or a kickboxer, and, oh, no, they're going to lean more weight towards probably stand-up. So we're putting in it kind of falls back. It comes back to the referee to be able to say, hey, recognize the situation. Give a verbal warning. Hey, Erica, you're stalling. I'm warning you. Do something.
Stop telling me what to do, John. Seriously.
And then get up.
Yeah.
But if we get into situations, like the Arlovsky Nelson fight, or I think there were a couple bad stand-ups in the Rick Story Charlie Brenneman fight as well. Then we're taking the judge's job and essentially putting it in the hands of the referee, which isn't the purpose.
Well, no, you're not doing that. What you're doing is it's the referee's job for the fighter's safety. It's the referee's job to make sure the fight's following the rules and that the fighters are active. The judge's job is to score it.
Yeah,
And the referee's the one that enforces the rules. And if there's a rule set up, if they can, and they somehow makes it into the fighter, say, listen, you will be active. Here's what's going to happen. If you just lay there, you're not active, you're going to get a warning. Maybe he stands them back up, or they separate them, they do something, and then he gives a warning that's noted. And then if he does again, he takes away a point or awards a point, however they want to do it. Usually they take away a point in, boxing and MMA. But it's the judge's job to keep score. It's the referee's job to run the fight.
The judges, you were saying that some judges may be a little more inclined for grappling or a little more inclined.
And that's always going to be that way.
Yeah, I don't think there's.
Well, who's to say that referees aren't going to be the same way?
And you're right. And I guess along with it, though, like you said, to go along with it, maybe there's something that needs to be set up where. You're reviewed, you're evaluated based on your performance. And if, you're one of those guys that sits there and lets a guy that's clearly unconscious get his head bounced 7-8 times off the mat, or canvas, or, you make a mistake, you're human. It happens. But you seem to routinely make mistakes or bad decisions, then it's like, hey, we need to step in and say, hey, you're suspended from, for however long, or whatever, and get some retraining.
Yeah.
As we've reached a point where we've moved into that realm of mainstreamish, I hate saying that, but mainstreamish type area, then we need to hold our referees as responsible as every other sport does.
I think it's interesting that a lot of people, casual fans, of course, think that the referees and the judges work for the UFC. And
right.
And I think in order for us to kind of quash those kind of notions, there has to be more due diligence put into making sure that these guys are doing their jobs and doing their jobs right. John, can I go as far as to say that perhaps what needs to happen, along with judging criteria change, there needs to be further education for judges and referees along with these kinds of changes. Like, we can't do one without the other, because then we won't see.
I mean, it's kind of hand in hand.
Yeah, we won't see efficient change or effective change unless there's education all the way around. And these really do seem like scraps that this commission is throwing at us, and not really.
I mean, on the one hand, it's positive because at least they're looking and acknowledging that there's an issue and we need to make fixes. Now, whether people are going to agree that they're actual real fixes or not yet, but I mean, a part of me says, I want to be positive and say, okay, look, at least we're trying to move forward with it, but there's definitely a lot more that needs to be done.
Well, let me ask you real quick, John, about this next one that they put. I thought it was kind of a silly change, but whatever. So the rule states that heavier strikes will be given more weight than number of strikes landed, but the judges aren't given any kind of statistical information. Fight Metric is there and provides the statistical information, and that is for the commentators. That's for Joe and Goldie and Anik and Florian and the audience. But this information is not given to the judges. So how does this particular change, how can they even effectively implement this kind of change if they're not giving the judges this kind of information? Do you think that the judges should be allowed to have statistical information along with the fight, or do you think that would sway judges?
Now you're doing it on purpose too. I know, Erica, that you're kind of tweaking the cynic in me that says, well, how easily can I manipulate the statistics that I'm feeding to the referee?
Yeah.
but I think, and on one hand, I mean, let's be honest, that it's probably just putting into words and what is going on anyway. I mean, right. I land 15 pitter-patters on you, and you land 2 that stumble me. It might not knock me down, but bobble my legs and force me to kind of, run around a little bit to catch my rep. More often than not, they look at, damage is part of, I guess, one of the criterion that they use. So, it's kind of already sort of in place. Obviously, if you're pitter-pattering me with some jabs or a couple body shots or something that don't really do much, and I catch you with 1 or 2 that stumble you and rock you, obviously, then, I'm doing more damage.
So let me ask you this, since you kind of brought that up, it was a great yeah, you know exactly where I'm going with this. Tito Ortiz, Forrest Griffin, I can't think of a better example, a more current or a better example where, Tito Ortiz definitely looked old and tired in that fight, but when he landed punches, he was able to knock Forrest Griffin down on his ass completely. And Forrest Griffin was throwing a bazillion pitter-patter punches, So
I thought Tito won, but
So that was my question, if you thought Tito won based off of what you just said. And a lot of people are saying because Forrest landed more strikes that he should have won the fight. So what should be more important, the more punches that you land or the more damage that you cause? And one of the things that I think fans don't realize is in the current set of criteria that judges have for fights, damage is not necessarily one of them. That can be an interpretation of effective striking, but it is not plainly said the guy who inflicts more damage or the guy who takes more damage is given more weight or given more quote unquote points. We keep using the word points. It's not necessarily a point system. It's not like they're sitting there, with a, checking off little markers. At least I hope they're not.
Right. Or like, hey, one heavy shot counts worth 10 jabs or light shots, or you know what? Honestly, I don't have a good answer for that. I don't have a good answer for it. And I kind of, in a way, it's like, when I think about it, it's like I almost contradict my last answer. Is if I'm landing decent shots on you, they're not rocking you, but I'm landing them. You know, over time, those take their toll. They wear you out. They make you more tired. Maybe I can get more shots or get a takedown or do something. I mean, it wears you out. But it's not as impressive or as noticeable as, you know, if you right hook me and I drop to a knee and then start scrambling to get away from you or throw my arms around your legs.
Right.
You know, it's not as impressive. You know, it's not as noticeable. I mean, how do you notice that, wow, see this guy, these shots are taking their toll on this guy. He's slowing down. He's not moving as much, or he, you know, seems to be a little off his game. I mean, it's so close to, I mean, there's so much interpretation in it. I mean, I really don't have a good answer. I mean, because it's just, it seems like it leaves a lot of gray area.
Yeah, to me, it sounds like the Leonard Garcia rule, essentially. It's like, let him get his ass kicked to an entire fight and then land 2 or 3 good shots and then, well, that guy's throwing hands like a monster. Let's go ahead and give him the nod. You know, that's just
right.
That rule scares me.
David, you're awfully quiet. Did you have? Are you just soaking this all in, or?
Yeah, I really haven't looked at it too closely, so I'm just listening to you guys. I mean, it's a balancing act. When I watch a fight, I'm not adding points in my head, but you know, if someone's landing pitter patter and then the person gets rocked, it really depends how much pitter patter has been landed and how much the person's been rocked. But I'm not sure changing these rules are going to necessarily affect the way judges are looking at fights right now. Because it's a difficult thing. We have a sport that involves so many different areas.
Yes.
I mean, it's not just striking and grappling. There's a lot going on involved in that striking and in that grappling, and it's difficult.
Yeah, and you know, I actually
a lot of it's instinctual. I feel.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I know what the criteria are, but I also know, you know, when I'm watching a fight and from my own experiences, you know, who's winning at a certain point in time. You know, a guy could be winning 4 minutes of a round, could be winning the stand-up and winning the grappling, and then something happens in that last minute, and the previous 4 minutes are nullified. Just
yeah.
You know, but it's not an exact science. It's an art.
Yeah, and well, another thing, like you were saying about the damage, about suddenly at the end landing a big shot that cuts the guy's face up or bloodies him or something. I mean, you know, that's hard to go with too, because you get somebody like, you know, Vanderlei. You get guys that have been fighting for so long, they've got so much scar tissue, you slap them hard with your hand and it breaks open and starts bleeding and looks like they've just been beaten, you know, but it really...
Buckets of blood can really affect how you view damage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you look at it and suddenly, you know, someone looks at that and like, oh my gosh, this guy's getting his ass kicked. And no, not really. It's, you know, that big knot in his forehead is always there because he's been cut so many times. He has nothing but scar tissue.
Yeah, it's it really is. I think balancing act is probably the best way to describe it. And you know, I do have to say, you know, as hard as I was on Bader about what I felt like was,
it's making too much of it.
Making too much of little things. I do have to say that further defining effective aggression, and that is now defined as a fighter moving forward and using legal techniques, attacking with submissions or strikes on the ground is included. And control is also defined, and we always use quote-unquote octagon control, and that means that a fighter is dictating the pace and position of the fight in the cage. And it has to be mind-blowing for some that these were never really well-defined criteria, considering how important it can be for a fight. Octagon control can win or lose a fight for a fighter, and it's funny that it has never really been outlined exactly what that means. But I do think those two things are definitely a step in the right direction. You know, as far as refining the judging criteria for MMA. But I have to agree with John that this needs to be more than just the judges. It's not fair to put all of this on the judges, and I feel like maybe I have been a little unfair to the judges. It's not fair to put it all on the judges.
I can't say what I say to the judges to my TV on the radio.
You can say it. It's a podcast. We're not on terrestrial radio. Go ahead.
I call them many colorful adjectives sometimes.
Yes. I mean, and I think we all have had those moments where our
You
mothers
even
would
say
blush.
something like cunt on your hair.
I'm just afraid my mom might have tuned in because she saw me post a link up on my page of Facebook.
That's the problem.
I'm 41 years old.
Podcast you want your mom listening to?
I apologize, Jackie.
No, you really do not want this show is not.
I swear, Mom, that was a soda can I just opened.
Yeah, exactly. Well, she put up with me coming home on leave when I was in the military. So I mean, I even though she might pretend otherwise, I'm sure she knows that I can slip occasionally, once in a while.
Have we come up with a new slogan for our show? Is that slogan for our show? This is not your mom's podcast. Because we are definitely not we are not mom safe, that's for sure. But John, I really appreciate you coming on and really appreciate you coming on, sharing your thoughts with us, man. Go ahead and plug Fighter Link, plug everything, pick a fight, the whole nine. Go for it.
Oh, hey, thanks a lot. Yeah, I mean, Fighter Link, we're actually here in the next couple months. It's the facelift will be done, and we're kind of modernizing it a little bit. And pick a fight. We're out at the UFC Fan Expo, and that was very tiring, but was a great time out there. Made some great relationships with people, and it was pretty successful. And make your fights tonight for the Bellator. Don't forget. You've got a little bit of time left to make the picks, and really good talking to you guys again.
There's a Bellator tonight, believe it or not.
I know.
Yeah, Bellator. I got Bellator tonight. Right now, as I'm sitting here listening to you guys and talking, I'm actually building the Invicta cards for next week's Invicta FC. So, I mean, it's good. It's a lot of work, but it's been successful, and it was well received, and it's like anything else. I mean, as soon as you make it, you look at it, and then like, okay, I wish I would have done this, or I want to do this. So
we are definitely our own worst critics, are we not?
But anyway, thanks again for listening to me, putting up with me, you guys, and great show as always.
Hey, John, before you go,
coming on,
real quick, who's your pick for tomorrow night? Uriah Faber or Hernan Barao?
My heart would like to see Uriah win again. But Barao is where I'm leaning. If I just was, I'm torn.
Yeah,
I'd like to see Faber win, but I think Barao's going to win, and I think just there's Uriah has pretty much been figured out, and Barao's got enough weapons and experience to take advantage of that, and I think that he's going to win.
All right. So we're going to be giving our picks here in a second. Thank you again, John. And I'd love for you to call back in, man. You have so much really good stuff to say, and you sound smart and stuff. You're really good at tricking people. So
you sound smart and stuff.
I finally fooled somebody. Can I get you to say that again so I can record it and play it for my wife?
Oh, it's going to be up on YouTube. It'll be up on YouTube for the whole world to hear. And you can play it for Jen and say, look, people think I'm smart and stuff. So.
But then she'll wait a minute. That's Erica. She doesn't count. She's your friend.
Tell Jen that the last check she sent me didn't clear, so she can just pay me through PayPal.
So I'm still in neutral ground then. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, guys, take it easy. Take care, and I will talk to you all later.
All right, John. Talk to you later.
Okay.
All right. Out here.
Bye. I think that's a good segue for us to go ahead and go into our UFC 149 picks. Hold on, let me play our spiel because we need to play the spiel for so everybody knows exactly what we're doing here. Hold on. And that is my fault. Look at Erica just effing up all over the place over here. I blame you guys.
We still think you're smart and stuff.
I'm smart and stuff. I'm from
Maryland. You got real pretty hair.
I'm from Maryland. That's how we talk in Maryland. You real smart and stuff.
This week's predictions are brought to you exclusively by Fanachel's Fantasy Fight League. Follow them on Twitter at FF Fight League. Remember, it's just $21.50 for 3 months of fantasy MMA action and a chance at the grand prize of 2 tickets to a future UFC event, including hotel and airfare. Online at fantasymmaworld.com.
All right, guys. So, Fanachel's Fantasy Fight League sponsors our prediction segment, and as always, we are giving away entries into actually their season 4. Each season is about three months. So feel free to send us a Twitter message with your pick for the main event. Let's say Uriah Faber or Hanan Barao. You tweet us at FanAddicts MMA, and we will pick I guess 2 people who pick the winner of tomorrow night's main event and give them free entries into season 4 to Finish Your Fantasy Fight League's season 4. Otherwise, you can go to their website and sign up, which is fantasymmaworld.com. So let's go over some really exciting news that they sent us an email. First, they went to Justin, and then they're all over the place with this. They really want somebody to talk about their newest endeavor, which is they're adding a new game. It's a team game that they're adding. It'll be 2 people per team. Each player will be assigned 5 fights at random from each card and will have to predict the method each fight will end. The season will correspond with the season for the main event, with the only difference that it will end on the card before the last card of the regular season. On the last card of the regular season, the winner of that season will face the champions from previous seasons of the title of Grand Champion. So you have a chance not only to probably win some really cool prizes through Finish Your Fantasy Fight League, but also get the title of champion, and we all like having titles. I give myself titles all the time. Queen of the Universe, Mistress of Mayhem, the whole 9. So, again, FantasyMMAworld.com. All right, guys. Let's talk about this. UFC 149 tomorrow night, headlined by Uriah Faber and Hanan Barao.
Or if you have Comcast and go to the On Demand, the name is pronounced Renan Barao.
Renan Barao. He's from Chicago.
Exactly as it's spelled.
He's from
Renan Barao faces Uriah Faber.
He's from Chicago. I think it's an interesting main event. Of course, if anybody remembers, this may be a little bit convoluted, so hold on to your panties here, kids. Originally, it was Uriah Faber versus Dominic Cruz for the bantamweight title, and that was going to be the headliner for UFC 148. And then they moved Silva Sonnen to 148 and made that the headliner, and made Cruz versus Faber the co-headliner. Cruz got hurt, and then it was Faber versus Barao. Then on UFC 149 was supposed to be headlined by Jose Aldo versus I already forgot. Eric Koch. And Jose Aldo was injured and no longer able to fight on that card. So they moved Uriah Faber and Hanan Barao as the headlining fight for UFC 149, and that takes place in Calgary in Canada. So real quick before we get into our predictions, how much does this do-si-do of bullcrap affect the pay-per-view buys for this one?
I think Anderson against Chael 2 weeks ago probably affects it more than all the bullshit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Uriah against Barao. I think it's going to do... Yeah, I don't think the bullshit's going to affect the buys, but I think the success of Anderson Chael, I think people are picking and choosing shows at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point right there. People aren't like us. Or aren't like me at least, where I was buying every single pay-per-view for a long time, and it's gotten to the point now where pay-per-views are coming and going, and it's like I'll catch the fight when I can, but I'm not gonna throw down $50 to watch James Head and Brian Ebersol fight on a main card. And
that's my feeling here.
Yeah, and just like David just said, the Big Show a few weeks ago did a million buys. That was probably a lot of people's quota for the month as far as throwing money at a card, and especially when James Head, Chris Clements, Matt Riddle, Sean Jordan. All these guys are on the main card.
I only find the first 2 fights, the top 2 fights, intriguing. I gotta say, up and down the card.
Exactly, and I'm not paying $25 a fight.
No, either am I. I'm with you 100%. I'm not buying the show.
Oh wow. I say oh wow, but I'm totally not. I'm not paying for the card. I have a friend who has a free purchase of
like
the
a voucher?
a voucher for the pay-per-view. So we're just going to get together and watch that.
Yeah, I mean, if I mean, like Erica, you said you were trying to get us all together, or if there was some situation where I could go to somebody's house and throw in like $5 or something like that, like I would do with friends back home, I would do it. But for me to, I mean, I watch pay-per-views by myself or with one or other person and don't, just ask them to bring beer or food or something. I would never do that for this card.
Right. Oh, wow. Okay, well...
be like, you want to watch this? You better bring me $10.
I do have to say, there are a couple of fights in here that... Well, let me correct this. There is one fighter that I'm interested to see how he does on the preliminary card, and that'll be on FX tomorrow night, and I believe that starts at 8 p.m., and that's Ryan Gimo, and he used to be the Maximum Fighting Championships light heavyweight champion. I've always been a fan of his, and not necessarily because of his fighting style. He has had some exciting fights. He's also had some real, just ugly fights. But I like him because he was he was a background dancer for, I believe it was Step Up 3, and I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome that he's an MMA fighter, and then he can do hip hop dancing. I know that's silly.
Yeah, if you YouTube Ryan Gimo doing the robot, it's actually really, really good.
Yeah, you can tell that he's like this is no BS. This isn't just like dancing that he's taught himself in his house. You can tell that he really knows what he's doing. Very, very clean robot. That was an awesome robot. And I like the robot. Everybody likes the robot.
My only thing with him is I was so excited to watch his fight with Sokoju.
And that was an awful fight, wasn't it?
And it was also like the only time I've ever watched a fight where they actually implemented the half-point system.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so wacky, and the fight was so bad, and I was just like, I can't deal with this anymore. I was like, I have to turn it off.
But he was supposed to debut in the UFC a while ago. He got hurt, so he is going to be facing Anthony Perosh again on the preliminary card on FX. Let's talk about the main card, and I agree with you. There are some, because of injuries, we've had some really wacky substitutions here on the main card, and some of these fights, I guarantee you, we will not be able to really come up with a really believable or plausible prediction for it, but whatever.
I think Justin could do it.
Well, yeah, that's because he's Justin, and he might also be Joe Silva.
I know I can't. I'll just be adopting Justin's analysis after he does it.
Were you going to say what he said?
Yeah,
what he said.
That's my plan for some of these fights.
So starting off the main card, UFC 149 on the pay-per-view, Chris Clements versus Matt Riddle. How the hell did Matt Riddle end up on the main card of a pay-per-view? I'm sure a lot of you are thinking that. How did that happen? Matt Riddle has always been a Dana White favorite. For some reason, he likes this kid. He was on The Ultimate Fighter, and he's given this kid a job. And he for the most part, he's done all right. I mean, he doesn't have a fantastic record, but his entire career has been in the UFC, and most of it has been on either before the UFC did Facebook fights. He was on the dark fights, and now he's mostly Facebook fights. He's usually one of the first or second fight on a card. There was an injury here, and that is what resulted in it being Matt Riddle versus Chris Clements. Who was Chris Clements originally supposed to fight? I feel like, was Chris Clements also a stand-in? This is...
And, at this point, it was probably one nobody versus another nobody, and they put them in, put two nobodies in.
So a nobody plus a nobody equals...
Two nobodies.
Two nobodies, okay. I wasn't sure if there was a technical term for two nobodies.
Nobody's a little harsh. I didn't mean that. I meant as, someone who has no real name recognition. I mean, Matt Riddle might have a little, but I mean, that's just from being on The Ultimate Fighter.
Okay, so here it is. So originally, Yoshihiro Akiyama was expected to face Thiago Alves at this event, but he had to pull out due to injury and was replaced by Sayar Bahadurzada.
Sierra the Killer.
Yes, and then Alves had to pull out of the event as well because of injury, and was replaced by Chris Clements. and then Sayar had to pull out due to injury and was then replaced by Matthew Riddle. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we ended up with Chris Clements versus Matthew Riddle on the main card. At this point, don't you switch that out for another fight that's on the FX card? Granted, none of the ones on the FX card are that fantastic, but Court McGee did win the Ultimate Fighter, and Nick Green was a fairly well-known guy on the Ultimate Fighter. You could have put him on there. You could have put Ryan Gimo versus Anthony Perosh on there. I would prefer that to Chris Clements versus Matthew Riddle any day. I don't even know how the fight's going to turn out, and I'll go out on a limb and say that's probably going to be a much better fight than Clements versus Riddle, unless Clements comes out and just destroys Matthew Riddle. But this is Clements' debut, I believe, in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken.
Second fight, I believe.
Is his second fight? Did he lose his first one, or did he win?
He won it. Oh, he lost it. Okay, I'm sorry.
I thought he lost it.
No, he won.
Yeah,
He did it against Keith Wisniewski.
Wisniewski. Yeah,
Yes.
the guy that Josh Neer elbowed 1,000 times in DC.
Yes.
It was a split decision win for Clements, right?
Yes. So we have.
Nailed it.
We have. I know you're creepy. That's really creepy. I just want to point that out. But Chris Clements, I'm sure a lot of you are not familiar with him. Obviously, we're not quite as familiar with him. He is 11-4 as a fighter. Not a bad record. Some of the people he's beat: Rich Clemente, he beat via TKO. Jonathan Goulet, although I think I've beat Jonathan Goulet at some point. I know for a fact David has beat Jonathan Goulet at some point.
Me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Once or twice.
Yeah. And
I don't like his haircuts.
And Justin's fighting him coming up soon, but we're going to say that's already a
TJ's going to fight him.
TJ's fighting
Not just regular Justin, TJ. TRTJ.
Now, some people that he's lost to, this is probably...
Wait, how's that? You don't like that? TRTJ?
TRTJ? I like that.
TRTJ? Isn't that great? Come on.
I think...
I'm not getting any love from Justin on this at
I
all.
don't know. Understand.
Well, no, I was just going to say, instead of winning by, first round TKO, you could win by, first round TJ.
First round TJ. I like that.
I like TRTJ. It makes it even... That's
like the TKO. So the KO would be TJ, and the technical...
TRTJ is when you just kill him.
Yes.
You go all you rage on him. Turn green and you just kill the guy.
So let's talk about some of the people that Chris Clements has lost against. Roy Markham is one of them. Jesse Bongfeld is one of them, and John Alessio is one of them.
Matt Riddle probably won't be, though. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
So, I don't know. It doesn't seem like either guy, again, deserves to be on this main event, first off. And second off, I don't know what kind of performance they'll be able to deliver. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I can't get out of my head. I don't think it may not have been his last fight. Maybe it was 2 fights ago. But Matt Riddle just went crazy, shadow boxing. He was nowhere near his opponent and was shadow boxing the entire fight.
Wasn't it the Sean Pearson fight where he was just kind of all over the place? Sean Pearson.
There was one fight where it was just 15 minutes of shadow boxing from Matt Riddle. And I have the image of him shadow boxing and the goofy kind of smile. He's goofy, but also kind of charismatic, and I guess that's why they gave him a shot.
So, Riddle has he has 3 losses on his record. He has 6 wins and 3 losses. All of these fights are in the UFC. He started his career in the UFC. Started off with a 3-fight win streak. He lost to Nick
Sipsak.
Yeah, that guy.
What the fuck's with these people's names?
I don't know. You need to change your name. You need stage names, people. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't ever have a problem with Rampage Jackson. Come on, let's do it. He then had a 2-fight win streak against Greg Soto and DeMarcus Johnson. And then he went on a 2-fight losing skid against Sean Pearson and Lance Benoist. And then his last fight was against Henry Martinez, and he won that via split decision. He uses his wrestling primarily to win fights. I don't even know where to go with this one. It might be worth pointing out that Chris Clements is a Team Tompkins fighter, so I don't know if that's going to have an effect. It doesn't seem to have. He's on a 5-fight win streak right now. I think Rich Clemente is probably the biggest feather in his cap at this point. Clemente is a journeyman, but he's still a tough dude, so he beat him via TKO. I'll give him a little bit of credit for that. But do either one of these fighters, Justin, in your opinion, have an advantage over the other?
I mean, I haven't actually seen Clement's fight, so it's tough for me to say where his skills lie. If he's a Tompkins fighter, then I'm guessing he's primarily a kickboxer, as most of those guys from that camp tend to be. Matt Riddle's, for all his goofiness and really strange stand-up technique, is really a great wrestler. Erica, you were at UFC 101 in Philly, right?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, Matt Riddle fought, I believe it was, crap, I can't even remember his name, and another guy from The Ultimate Fighter, but it was one of those things where I was really impressed with his top game and attaining good positions and that sort of thing. Would really benefit from getting some submissions added to his repertoire. But I think people are really high on the guy just because Dana White saw so much potential in him, and he never really took that potential anywhere. He just kind of Dan Kramer, that was the name of the guy he beat.
Oh yeah, I remember Dan Kramer. I kind of liked him.
Yeah. So he's the kind of guy who it was like years ago when everyone thought Dwayne Ludwig was the shit and was like, oh man, if Dwayne Ludwig just got a ground game, he'd be unstoppable. Well, people were saying that shit like 10 years ago now, and we're still saying it. But Matt Riddle, I mean, I'm picking him in this fight to win by decision just because I think he's probably the better wrestler. It's just going to take him down and ride it out for 3 rounds. But the guy's so unpredictable, you don't know if his last fight with Henry Martinez, he was, it looked like a 185 fighter fighting a 155 fighter. And Henry Martinez nearly won that fight, and a lot of people thought he did. And Henry Martinez came in on late notice as well.
Right.
So I'm going to pick Riddle by decision just because I'm assuming he's the better wrestler, but shit, he could get knocked out in 12 seconds for all I know. Which would be kind of funny, too.
I think the safe bet is... I think that is a safe bet to go with Matthew Riddle. I feel like you almost have to go with the guy with the stronger wrestling. I don't know what Chris Clement's submission defense is like. I will say his first fight in the UFC 145 against Keith Wisniewski, was the first time he ever went to decision. All of his other fights he finished or was finished, which to me says that he's probably an extremely active fighter. He wants to go out there. He wants to throw. He wants to end the fight. And Matthew Riddle's going to have none of that. He does also own the record for the fastest knockout in MMA history at 3 seconds. So,
oh, that's right. Oh, I remember. Everyone was hyping the dude up so much, and then he fought Wisniewski and it went to a split decision. Everyone was pissed.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Oh my god.
So I'm going to go with Matthew Riddle as well. I'm going to pick him by decision. And I'm guessing David is just going to say what you said. Is that right, David?
I actually lied because I'm going to pick the guy that Riddle's fighting, even though I have no good reason for doing this at all. I've never seen him fight. And I don't even know his name right now.
Chris Clement?
Chris. I'm going with Chris.
Fine.
No good reason at all. Except to be contrarian, I guess. And I don't think Matt Riddle's that good.
He's not. He really isn't.
So if one guy's not that good, I'm thinking maybe the other guy might be a little better. I don't know.
All right. So I'm actually tweeting that right now. Picking Clements is... Sour
D. Wolf, apparently.
Sour D. Wolf. You haven't been quite as active lately, Sour D. Wolf.
Have I not?
No. We're picking Riddle. I feel like we're trying to be safe here, Justin, but just given how crappy this matchup really is.
I don't know if it's safety on my part or it's just not giving a shit.
Oh, wow. I mean...
Yeah, I said
it. TJ don't give a shit. TJ don't care.
Gators don't play no shit.
All right, guys. Next fight on the card. I'm actually not quite as disappointed in this fight. I actually like Brian Ebersol. He tries to put on exciting fights, and most of the time he does. I'm not sure if James Head is really gonna allow him to do that, but the next fight on the card is Brian Ebersol versus James Head. Ebersol is actually...
What's James Head's nickname?
Give me.
Give me?
Yeah.
Give me it. Give me it.
I think it's Mushroom.
No, it's got to be Gimme. Gimme it.
So we have Brian Ebersol is actually coming in on short notice to face James Head. Claude Patrick was originally supposed to face him and had to pull out due to injury. Ebersol literally just fought. He fought. Was it the last card or the card before last?
He fought on the Clay Guida Gray Maynard card. I believe he beat T.J. Waldberger.
Yes. So that's July 22nd. Oh, not July. Sorry, June 22nd was the last time he fought, and he's fighting less than a month later. And big props to him. Good. Not a whole lot of people would want to do that, but he is. And I think Ebersol's record is absolutely redonkulous. But he is 50, 14, and 1-1. And he's coming in here on less than a month's notice to face James Head. Head is Head Pillar now. Sorry. He has 2 losses on his record.
What the hell was that?
You never seen So I Married an Axe Murderer? You never seen it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. That's one of the things that I always say to my friends, because they always comment on how big my head is. So I talk about how I cry myself to sleep on my giant pillow.
Oh, your giant
It's
pillow.
just figurative, Justin, just figurative.
Oh, you giant pillow. Okay.
No, really, I have a huge dog, and if I headbutt you, that might kill you.
Oh. That sounded much like a threat right there, like a legitimate threat.
It wasn't a threat. I'm just telling you I have a massive noggin.
I don't even know.
That's what she said.
I don't even know what to do with that information. All I can do is giggle. So James Head has a loss to Jesse Forbes and Nick Ring, and that was by rear naked choke to Nick Ring at UFC 131. Then he has a win over Papi Abedi. Oh, I remember James Head now. Aha, I like James Head. I thought that was a really good performance for him against Papi Abedi. Now, do you remember that fight?
I don't remember that at all.
Gustafsson?
Yeah, I remember it for Head getting outstruck for, God, I can't even say his name and not giggle, for getting outstruck for a good portion of the first round, and then he lands like 2 or 3 really good shots, including, I think, was a pretty good elbow, and then had one of the weirdest looking rear naked chokes on Abedi, and Abedi starts like drooling on himself.
Yes. So I kind of like that. I kind of like the guy who can overcome stuff like that. There has to be something said for that. I mean, I understand the fact that in the first place you let yourself get in that much trouble, means you need to definitely work on your defense. But a guy that can come back from that and say, I'm not going to let you win, and win as violently as he did over Papi Abedi, deserves some sort of accolades in my book. And, Ebersol is going to bring it, and I think Head is going to bring it. Head's going to get it. Head's going to get it. So I actually think this is a fairly exciting fight now that I'm actually like really looking at it. Justin, give me your thoughts on who you think is going to win in this bout.
I mean, as tenacious and congratulatory as I want to, those are 2 completely not even related words. I don't even know how I came to that. I want to be congratulatory of his tenacity, I think is what I was trying to say. In his last fight against Papi Abedi, I just don't think James Head really has much of a chance in this fight. I think Brian Ebersol is much more well-rounded, both striking and grappling. His entire game set is really impressive. And he's got tons more experience, and I just think he's the better fighter. I think he can do whatever he wants with James Head, and looking back on it, James Head, he can.
I thought there was like possessive there. He can do whatever he wants with James's head.
Yeah, exactly. But James Head lost to Nick Ring of all people, and Nick Ring is one of the most overrated things to ever come out of the Ultimate Fighter ever.
Oh no, you didn't. Sorry.
What's that?
Oh no, you didn't. Do you remember that? That became an internet meme after a while when all the talks about him being gay were on the Ultimate Fighter. I remember I met Chris Savage at an event out here in the DC area back when he was still training with Team Lloyd Irvin, and I was
Chris
like,
McRae? Savage McRae.
Say what?
Chris McRae?
Yes. Yeah. And I asked him. I was like, "Is Nick Ring gay?" I mean, everybody seems to be asking the question, and nobody seems to be answering it. Not that it really matters in the grand scheme of life. I could care less. He could be, whatever. He could be, used to be a woman for all I care. But
Nick Ring used to be a woman. Nicolette.
Nicolette, really? Yes, Nicolette.
Are we starting a new rumor here?
Nicolette Ring. Yes, apparently that's what we do on the show too. Is we
FightFans Radio says Nick Ring is a transgender person.
We start.
Now, remember when he said he was like, "I'm not gay, but my boyfriend is."
Yes, that's what I was about to say. That's what Chris McRae told me. He said, when we asked him, all he said was, "I'm not gay, but my boyfriend is." And I like that about Nick Ring. I like that he's kind of playing. He's managed to create a niche for himself, even though not being the most fantastic fighter. But he's managed to use that kind of the fact that he won't address those kinds of questions to his advantage. It makes him a fighter people talk about. It's something people remember about him, and therefore makes him marketable.
Either way, both him and James Head are going to lose tomorrow. So.
Oh, rude.
Yeah.
But I think the Ebersol Head fight might actually be quite the barn burner. So I agree with you. I think Ebersol's he's on an 11 fight win streak. You can't overlook that kind of win streak. And he's run through some of these people, and I'm going to say. I'm definitely going to say Ebersol's going to pull off the win based on experience and based on the fact that he has 5,000 fights up underneath his belt, and I don't think James Head can really bring anything new to the table that he hasn't already seen. So I'm going with Ebersol on this one. Probably a decision, but I think it'll be an exciting fight.
I say he'll submit Head. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Terrence from Southeast is saying that he thinks 149 will do about 200,000 buys. That's
probably pretty close.
That's awful. That made me a little sad. Thanks.
Hey, who you got in this fight?
I think, taking Head would be a little much to swallow. So I'm gonna have to go with Ebersol.
Did you really go there? You went there. You went there, my friend, and I appreciate it.
I'm taking Ebersol. That's all I said.
All right, so we're all picking Ebersol for for a win over James Head. To
really grind out the Head.
Yes. Hey, Justin.
He's gonna work Head hard.
Have you done your picks on Fantasy MMA World yet?
I have not put them in yet. But I do have them written down on a sheet of paper as I was looking at betting odds and records and just trying to figure things out. God damn if these prelims are a bunch of people that I don't really know. But I haven't put them in yet, but they will be going in this evening.
Okay. All right, so I'm tweeting that as well. We're all picking Ebersol. And nobody is picking...
No one's getting Head.
Nobody's getting Head.
Worst weekend ever.
Oh my God, we could never be on regular radio. You realize that, right? We would just...
Oh, hell no.
We would cause all kinds of problems. The FCC would have a field day with us. All right, next fight on the card, Sean Jordan versus Czech Congo. I don't know if you guys watched the Countdown show. They typically do a pretty good job of getting you hyped for fights that are obviously squash matches.
Yeah.
Sean Jordan is a tough dude. He was a college football player for a really good team. But he's facing Czech Congo, and that is a huge step up in competition. I think Czech Congo is going to do what he does best, and that's kick him in the ding-ding, hold on to his shorts, and win a unanimous decision. That's all I got to say about that one.
Kick him in the ding-ding. I'm going to go with Sean Jordan by TKO in the first or second round.
Wow.
You're going with what?
Sean Jordan, either first or second round TKO.
Holy smokes! Are you serious?
I'm super surreal.
What do you think of this crazy man over here, David?
I'm taking Congo.
Congo, yes.
I'm taking Congo. I think actually he'll finish the fight.
There's just,
I don't see Congo getting knocked out and losing a stand-up battle with this guy. I mean, I think the odds are, you take Congo down and beat him that way.
You do know that if TJ picks this right, we'll
never hear the end of it.
We'll never hear the end of it.
No,
I'll be like, I told you guys, Congo was getting knocked out first or second round.
Congo's just the type of guy that, despite all of his, air quote, credentials for kickboxing, has never impressed me as a striker. He has no chin. I actually did get to see Sean Jordan's debut in the UFC against Ali Thompson. Just a super tenacious guy. He, moving forward the whole time, took some big shots from Ali Thompson. I mean, Ali Thompson is a former strongman competitor. So, the guy hits hard as hell, or has the strength to at least hit hard as hell. Walk through those shots and end up knocking the guy out. Now, I'm not saying Ali Thompson's the quality of fighter that Congo is. But, we saw Pat Barry nearly finish Congo. We saw Mark Hunt just finish Congo. This guy doesn't have much of a chin. I think if Sean Jordan gets his hands on him, which is extremely likely, he's going to put him out. And that's what I think is going to happen.
Don't you think the Pat Barry fight demonstrated that Congo has a chin?
I mean, I don't know if that says that he has a chin as much as he has good awareness when he's not completely there. I don't know. When people say have a chin, what do you mean by have a chin? I think when you say somebody has a chin, that means
ability to recover and not get knocked the fuck out.
I think that's two different things. I think the ability to recover is one thing, and being able to actually take a punch in the face. I mean, we've seen guys straight up take a full-on punch straight in the face, and it affects them not. It affects them nil. I think that's the ability to take a punch. I don't know. I like to overdefine everything, so.
I don't know. Pat Barry is a fucking monster, and hit Chuck Congo hard, and Congo survived.
No, Pat Barry hit him hard. He dazed the hell out of him. You cannot.
He was practically knocked out.
Yeah, he was practically knocked out, and still had the wherewithal to kind of get his bearings straight and landed the punch that eventually ended the fight. So
that's not a chinny guy to me. Is a guy like Chuck Liddell at the end of his career, where you just tap him on the chin and he goes out. That's chinny.
Okay. Yeah. That's probably fair. I don't think Congo's quite that chinny as like Liddell or Wanderlei Silva at this point in his career. But I don't think his striking's overrated, and I don't think he can take a punch all that well.
No, I don't think he can take a punch. I don't think that's a really good
that
definition.
might be
of Congo.
fair.
But I think you're right. We can't call him chinny, but we can definitely say that he does not take a punch very well. And we saw that. We also saw that in the didn't we also see that in his fight against Cain Velasquez? Didn't Cain Velasquez land a couple of good punches, or was that all?
Congo actually actually connected on Velasquez a couple times.
Yeah, I remember that in Velasquez. Talk about tenacity.
That fucking guy. He's gonna be champion again.
That guy.
That fucking dude. It's an animal.
All right, let's co-main event of the evening.
All right, here we go.
Yes, I think.
Seriously, I skipped this whole fucking show except these two fights.
And I think we can all be really excited about this co-main event. I'm excited for it. I like Tim Bosch. There's something about him. It's the redneck judo. It's everything. It was this win over Yushin Okami. It just really he's endeared himself to people. If you watch the Countdown show, he really, really endeared himself. I think.
I heard he was awesome on the Countdown show. I haven't seen it. I think it's only on Fuel. But I heard the Bosch part. Like if enough people saw it, Bosch would be a star.
It should be on the YouTube channel for the UFC as well. I usually watch them online. I don't ever really watch them on TV. So they separate them out. They have just the segment with Tim Boesch and Hector Lombard. They have just the Faber and Barao segment, and they have just the Jordan Congo segment, which is the shortest one. I think it's only 8 minutes, but you should be able to find
the Boesch one was really good. That's what I heard.
Yes. Just check it out on YouTube. I believe the UFC's channel should have it up there. Really good quality, the whole shebang, and you don't have to watch everybody. You can just watch the Boesch Lombard one. I think they did a good job of getting people familiar with who Hector Lombard was. If you weren't familiar with him. Trying to push the fact that he's on such a huge win streak, that he is such a phenom, and he really is. But his frame is so big, I just can't imagine.
That's what she said.
We're not on the James Head fight anymore. We're moving on up to Hector Lombard.
The way you said that was hilarious. How you were like, it's so big.
It is. It's big and veiny. Actually,
it's so veiny.
It is. It really is. It's kind of creepy.
Lord.
I know. I'm sorry, David. But
you
guys.
That's our show. It wouldn't be a FanAddicts show without dick talk.
Yeah, that's true. I think every episode we do, we either talk about penis or vagina. And
come on, it's MMA. It's the most homoerotic thing in the world. That's not purposely.
Yeah.
It really is. I'm sorry. I love MMA, but
it is extremely homoerotic.
If you don't see that.
Oh, I mean, that's how I got my roommate. One of my roommates he was gay and he was not into MMA, and then he actually watched it and he was like, "Okay, I'm sold." And
it's kind of funny how homophobic so many segments of
yes
are. When again, the most homoerotic thing in the world that's not purposely homoerotic.
And you know what's funny? The number of people that have a problem with that. They have a problem with, a gay guy who may be watching it because he likes the guy's physiques and he likes the fact that they're rolling around on the ground. But what's the difference between that and a woman who watches it for that reason? There really isn't.
There's no difference.
There's no difference. And then eventually my housemate was really like becoming quite the MMA fan. It had gone beyond just what they looked like and who was fighting and what color shorts he was wearing. It really become about technique, and he was rooting for certain people because he liked their fighting style. So, whatever gets people in the door, gets them in the door, right?
The back door.
The back door with James Head. That's his podcast, The Back Door with James Head. I really need to send him a Twitter message. We really want you to host this podcast called The Back Door. Are you willing to do it? So Hector Lombard, of course, was the Bellator middleweight champion. That's the guy that people think could possibly give Anderson Silva problems. I honestly don't think anybody can give Anderson Silva. Maybe Chris Weidman could.
Chris Weidman's going to give him some problems.
I think Chris Weidman is the closest we have to somebody who in my mind, could legitimately give Anderson Silva problems. I don't know if that means win the fight, but give him problems for sure. Lombard, he does. He has a massive frame, nothing but muscles.
Is he bigger than Boesch? I don't think he is.
I don't think he's taller than Boesch, but he is definitely a lot more built than Boesch. Like scary, but built. It was a little creepy. Like there's those guys that work out and like you're like, oh, he's got really nice big muscles. Oh, John Tackett just texted me and he said you guys are going downhill fast.
That's what she said.
That is what she said. What a smile on her face. So Lombard is just so huge, and Boesch made a point in the Countdown show that I think has been brought up many times before. He's got so much muscle, and he has gassed in fights before. Is that a real concern in this fight against Tim Boesch? Do you think Boesch can really kind of pick up the pace, dictate the pace, make it a little bit frantic for Hector Lombard, tire him out, and then possibly win via TKO later on in the fight? David, give me your thoughts, since this is a fight that you seemed actually excited about. Give me your thoughts.
I think so, actually. It's a close fight, and we haven't seen Hector Lombard against a really elite competition. And I don't know that Tim Boesch is elite, but he's close. And he's got wrestling that I think could negate Hector's judo. Hector might have better stand-up, but Boesch hits really hard. I think Tim Boesch is going to rain on Hector Lombard's debut. on the parade here and actually come out with a victory. I don't know if he'll finish Hector Lombard, but I think he matches up really, really well with him. And Lombard might be on this amazing win streak, but I think Tim Boesch might be his toughest test at this point.
Justin, do you agree? Are you feeling are you on the Boesch train?
I want to be, but I can't. I agree with a lot of what David had to say. I do think Tim Boesch presents a lot of problems for Hector Lombard. I think he's going to be he's quite a bit taller than Lombard. But
actually, as a matter of fact, John Tackett just texted me to say that Lombard is 5'9" and Boesch is 6 foot. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's going to translate into to some issues. But skill-wise, I just happen to think that Lombard's just a little bit better in a lot of areas than Tim Boesch. And I think Boesch, bringing up Lombard's stamina and his gas tank, I remember watching Tim Boesch at 205 gassing hard against Matt Hamill and eventually getting finished in that fight.
But I don't think that's really been a problem since he's been at 185.
What are these guys' ages, just out of curiosity?
That's a good question. Lombard is he's not
young.
No, but Lombard is Cuban, so his birth certificate says he's 18. Sorry, I had.
Oh Jesus!
I had.
But yeah, I mean,
34. 34.
Yeah, Lombard's known. He's known primarily for his striking, but the guy has really good submissions. Got Olympic level judo. Tim Boesch, I think, is probably going to be a little rangier, but I don't know. I want to buy into the hype of him at 185, but at the same time, his wins have been over guys like Kendall Grove and Nick Ring, and then his win over Yushin Okami was like comeback of the year type stuff, where he was getting his ass handed to him on the feet for two total rounds. So I don't know. I mean, if the fight starts going into the deep end of things, I think it would probably be advantage for Big Tim. But as far as what I think how the fight's going to go, I don't know. I see Hector Lombard winning this fight. It's very close for me. I wanted to pick him, but I don't know. I just think Lombard's a little better in all areas of the fight game.
I can admit that, and again, John Tackett texted me to let me know Boesch is 30 and Lombard is 34, and there's only a 1-inch reach difference between the two of them. So that may also be important. Both of them really hit hard. We know Boesch hits like a Mack truck. I am concerned about this being Lombard's debut in the UFC. He's been the champion in other leagues. He was the champion in Bellator. But let's look at the last time that he fought, which was November of 2011, against Trevor Prangley. I mean, Jesse Taylor, some guy that I've never heard of before, Joe Dirksen. Alexander Slamenko is probably the last really serious challenge he had, and it went to a decision there, and that was October of 2010. Was
that a 5-round fight?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so that's one advantage as far as gas tank that Lombard has over Tim right there.
That doesn't mean he looked good in those 5 rounds. Just because he finished and won doesn't mean that he looked good, and doesn't mean that Alexander didn't look worse.
Stark is a tough guy.
He is, but I don't remember his gas tank being that impressive. First off, so just because one guy was more tired than the other guy, I'm not saying that is the case, but that has been something a lot of media outlets have brought up, has been Lombard's gas tank, and will he be able to survive? His debut in the UFC. I'm sure the adrenaline is there like a mofo. You are on the biggest stage of your life. This is the opportunity for you to really go down in the record books as one of the best middleweights, if that's what your goal is. And I mean, this guy is on a. I'm not even going to count. I mean, I feel like that's a lot of counting right there, and I'm just not really in the mood for it. But he hasn't lost since 2007. How's that? And in between that and now, he has one draw against Kyle Noak. and that was July 28th, 2007. But other than that, but then you go through the list of names that he's beaten, and you want to talk about impressive. None of them really are. I'm looking, and he beat Brian Ebersol, which is interesting. Jared Hess, who hasn't? Caleb Starnes, apparently he caught him. Jay Silva. Again, Alexander Slamenko is probably the most impressive win that he has on his record during this win streak, and I don't know how much does that mean in the grand scheme of things. Not is Tim Boesch above or below those people? We won't know until this fight tomorrow night. I think we'll be able to have a much better gauge for Tim Boesch. Is he was that drop from 205 to 185 what he needed to become the next level of fighter, to become an elite fighter? You know what? I have nothing against Lombard. I would love to see him face Anderson Silva. But I'm going to go with Tim Boesch in this fight as well. David, are you going Tim Boesch as well?
Yeah, I took Tim Boesch. What's going on in the background?
I know. I don't know what that craziness
is. Is that Coey? I think that's Coey.
I think it's Coey, too.
What are you doing over there, man?
What are you doing?
I'm sorry, I got friends coming over in a little bit. I'm trying to clean up.
I mean, it sounds like...
You got a mute button or something?
Yeah, it sounds like you're cleaning up in a can. Are you in a can cleaning? Are you cleaning said can? Justin, do you need a place to live? Is that what this is?
No, I just got a new cardboard box. I'm fine.
I can probably find you one of those barrels that you can put a fire in, do some marshmallows, cat food, whatever else you cook over those kind of things. So I'm guessing that
cat food's good in the pinch.
I'm saying you add some oregano to it, and it probably has the exact same flavor that you would expect cat food with oregano would have, and that's cat food with oregano flavor. All right, so for our picks, David and I are picking the Boesch, the with his redneck judo to overcome Hector Lombard and his thousands and
spoil his debut,
thousands of muscles. But Koki believes in the Lombard system, and that's what he's going with. So.
Damn, am I alone again?
Yeah. I mean, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, you might just be absolutely right. We are picking the long shot in this one. You know, as much as I think Tim Boesch has a better chance than most people are picking for him, you're still, picking the better. As far as gambling odds are concerned, the better pick there. So
you do know that Sean Jordan's the favorite to win in his fight.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. He's like a minus 115 right now.
Yeah, but I bet you Congo's the same, though. Like, if you wanted to pick Congo, I don't think you get odds. You probably have to give odds on both those guys.
Yeah, he's like plus 120, I think.
Oh, he is? So, okay,
yeah.
So he's an underdog. Okay.
That is crazy talk, my friend.
Interesting. It just demonstrates... Like, all it illustrates is how the money is coming in. So.
And apparently Lombard was able to breathe in enough helium to actually make weight against Tim Boesch. So that's exciting. I always hate it when guys miss weight, and I don't know if Lombard's ever suffered from that before in the past, but he's just so big. That's something that I would completely expect. All right, main event, people. Main evento.
Interesting fight.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. Uriah Faber versus Renan Barao. Renan Barao with 28 straight victories, and not all of them over scrubs. Like he's got some real legitimate wins there. What are your thoughts on this fight, David?
I'm really looking forward to this fight. It's a tough one to call. I sort of favor Barao in all departments except. Maybe, we don't know his heart. We know Uriah has so much heart. And Uriah can go 5 hard rounds. And I'm just recalling Barao's last fight. Who was it against? Jorgensen. He won, but I just recall him being less impressive as the fight went on.
Well, I mean, was that because he didn't finish the fight? Or because I felt like Jorgensen really didn't have absolutely anything for him. It's just that Barao didn't finish the fight. And I think that might be a problem too, when you're completely overwhelming a guy and you can't finish him. That's a black mark in your column as well. But go ahead.
And I could be misremembering. I just remember being a little less. I thought this guy matched up really well with Dominic, was going to create a real difficult opponent for Dominic when the time came. And I just recall in the Jorgensen fight being less certain of that. And he's coming into the biggest fight of his career. Uriah's been there before. Uriah's had, he's lost several title fights in a row. But I think Faber's going to pull it out. I think he'll pull it out late. If Barao's going to do it, I think he's got to do it early. As the fight goes on, I really do start to favor Faber. And Faber is very difficult to put away.
He is. He's very, very difficult to put away. But Mike Thomas Brown managed to do it.
He did.
Mind you, that was because...
It's been done. But he's also taken incredible beatings.
Yes, he has. Again, Mike Thomas Brown.
Jose Aldo.
That
was brutal.
And in the countdown show, the trainer for Barao is the same for Jose Aldo, I believe. So he spoke about using the exact same strategy, going for those really killer leg kicks. Do you think that is the key for him to win this fight?
Still me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be a great strategy to try to repeat what Jose Aldo did. They have similar styles. I mean, no one like Jose Aldo is one of the probably top 5 pound for pound guys right now.
Yeah.
But Barao reminds me a lot of him, especially his fights preceding the last one against Jorgensen. But yeah, Uriah Faber didn't. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if he's adjusted and started checking leg kicks, but he certainly didn't do it in that Jose Aldo fight. And those leg kicks add up and take all the steam out of you.
Yeah, they really do. All right, Justin. So, give us your thought on this one. Do you think Uriah Faber, how many title fights has he had in the last 3 or 4 years, and he hasn't been able to regain a title despite that many shots? Do you think that he'll have an opportunity here against Barao?
I definitely think that this is a fight that Faber could win, but I'm tending to lean towards Barao in this one. I think a good point was made earlier that Faber's kind of been figured out. He was the kind of guy that really did well when he was able to just, kind of push the pace, be really tenacious with his strikes. Then as soon as it went to the ground, then, chances are he was going to guillotine you. But, as time has passed, Faber's fought a lot of fights. It's not like he may be young as a person, but he's not necessarily young as a fighter. I do think that Faber is definitely the best person that Barao has faced at this point. And I don't know if Barao is really ready to face someone who's going to be who's as good on the feet as he is on the ground. I think maybe the Jorgensen's not great on the feet, but he's a strong wrestler. Brad Pickett was another guy Barao ran through, but at that point, that's kind of a tough fight to really allude to, given the fact that Pickett was coming off a fairly long layoff at the time. But God, this is harder for me than the co-main. I just think Barao is young, he's hungry, and I just think at this point he's going to be the more well-rounded fighter. I think if it goes to the ground, I think he'll hold his own, even if he's put on his back on the feet. I think he's going to be a hell of a lot faster than Faber. Faber also makes some pretty glaring mistakes in his stand-up where he kind of leaves his head hanging out there and repeats head movements a lot. Bloody Elbow had not a huge fan of Bloody Elbow these days, but they had a really good judo chow on the mistakes that Faber makes during his in his stand-up with his head movement. And I think Barao's speed is really going to make a difference in this fight, and I think he's going to beat Faber.
Yeah. This was a hard pick for me too. My brother, he he is now a pretty hardcore MMA fan. I've kind of created. I've created a monster here.
Welcome to the dark side.
Welcome to the dark side. He really is, and he was chastising me for picking Chael Sonnen to win at 140, at 148, and I was like, I picked him to win, just kind of be, a little bit of a contrarian, but well, it was whatever. And he's like,
there are reasons to pick Chael Sonnen, though.
I think there were legitimate
reasons. I
didn't.
But they were legit. Yeah, they certainly were. The way the first fight went.
And
enough reason.
So my brother was like, "You better pick Faber to win this fight because you know that he's the man, right?" And I was like, "I know, but I don't know if I can do it. I might have to go against my big brother's wishes here, and I might have to go ahead and pick Barao. I think Barao is the new age. I think Uriah Faber is an amazing fighter. Do I think he'll ever wear gold around his waist again? I don't think so. I just really.
Only if he buys it in a store.
Yeah, and pisses off John Jones apparently in the process.
John Jones got pissed at Faber? I didn't hear about this.
No. He got pissed about people being able to buy the full size championship belts.
The replica belts?
Yeah.
You got pissed about that?
This was I guess over a year ago that it was when he first became champ after he beat Shogun.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was this stupid thing
up on this.
that John Jones haters kind of globbed onto that was really ridiculous. John Jones has a really hard time expressing exactly what he's feeling, and that is the result of being, fairly young and inexperienced in life itself, other than the things that he's trained for, and
the result of too much drinking,
the result of too much drinking and too much partying apparently. But he was saying that he didn't really. I don't know if he disliked it as much as people made it seem like it, but I can understand. You work really hard to get this belt. You really want the belt. It's a symbol of your achievements in some.
You better never go to a WWE event.
No, and some fat slob can go and
walk around with your title belt.
Yes, walk around with a belt that looks.
Don't be that guy.
Almost exactly like yours, and I mean, I can understand that kind of irking you a little bit. Maybe he shouldn't have voiced it. I think that was the problem. He shouldn't have voiced it. There are certain things you're supposed to that you have every right to be like, what, this kind of annoys me. That was not one of those things that you talk about. That's kind of the thing that you kind of keep to yourself, and you're like, whatever. It's part of the game.
I mean, my mom for Christmas 2 years ago, she didn't even buy me the full size one, like toy one with the strap is actually made of foam, and I was like, man, that'd be awesome if I could fighters to sign this. And I'm like, god damn, if I took it to a fighter and asked him to sign it, he'd probably laugh at me or something.
I don't think so, man. I think most would probably sign it.
I mean, I would laugh at you. I mean, I don't know.
You laugh at him anyway, though. That's part of.
It's part of my charm, isn't it? Part of my charm, right?
You're just mean.
I mean, there's a little bit of that too. I mean, I won't deny that, but it's why you guys like me. So
exactly, because we're mean people.
We are kind of mean people.
We like this disgusting cage fighting, where the object is just one person. Two men enter, one leave.
None of them have skill either. They just go in there. They're just. They
go in there and they fight. Look at these animals.
Yeah, just absolute animals.
It's horrible.
All right, so I'm gonna pick Barao to win this fight tomorrow.
Okay.
So Kohi and I are both picking Barao, right?
Yep.
You might be right, but I'm gonna hold.
You're gonna go Faber.
I'm gonna stick to my guns, and I'm sticking with Faber, despite the good points you both made.
See what happens when you don't listen. I don't know what to tell you, but
I tell you, MMA end up and it's over time, I pretty much end up 50-50 with my picks. It's just so hard to be. So many different ways for fights to go.
There are.
Yeah, I mean, what? I was top 10 in the Fantasy Fight League 2 weeks ago, and then after last week's card, I was, back down to 33.
If you do really well at picks, it's more luck than and not that you don't know fighting, because it's possible to know everything and
still get it wrong.
You can't. Yeah, I mean, it's just the way it goes. There's no one that picks really, really well. There are people that make good points and give you a good analysis, but these fights, always crazy shit happens in every card, and over time, I think it's very difficult to I pick fights very well. Well, you can analyze fights well, but
yeah,
picking the winner, so hard.
All right.
In UFC, I should say.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of other organizations, I think they set up a lot more squash matches than anything else.
It's easier. It's easier. Even at a Strikeforce show, it's a lot easier.
All right, real quick, we have 13 minutes left here, so some recent matchups real quick. Ellenberger versus Koss is going to be the main event, the co-main event for UFC 151, which is headlined by John Jones versus Dan Henderson. Evan Dunham versus TJ Grant is a new matchup that was made, and Aldo versus Coke, which was originally supposed to be tomorrow's headliner, is now back on for UFC 153. And Vinny, this is the worst last name in Portuguese ever, and I can never pronounce it. How do you pronounce his last name, Justin? I know you know how to do it.
I've heard a couple different ways with different fighters. Mauro Ranallo actually says Magalhães, but I think it's just Magalhães.
Okay. Vinny
Someone
Magalhães
has to shut up Mauro Ranallo. Must be done.
Most
annoying fucking announcer in MMA.
Yeah,
oh my god.
Oh well, Frank Shamrock, he's up there too, but
Frank Shamrock sucks. But Mauro Ranallo,
I don't know, man.
Yeah, Frank Shamrock sucks, but Mauro Ranallo is just like his voice is irritating.
You know who else I find really annoying, and everybody seems to really like him? Schiavolo, is that his name? The
Michael Schiavello?
Yeah, I don't like him. I don't like the incessant.
Good night, Irene.
The incessant metaphors and analogies and.
Ranallo, like, every fight, the feeling out process. It's a process, you fucking douchebag.
You're angry.
The feeling out process. Even if it's not happening, he's got to say it.
The feeling out process. Yeah. I mean, as many complaints as we have for Rogan and Goldie and Florian and Anik that people have, they are still like the best commentary teams right now in MMA. So I actually really like Jimmy Smith from Bellator. I actually kind of like him.
He's good.
Yeah, they're not bad.
Is it Smith or Smith?
I mean, we're MMA fans. Of course we don't like anything.
That's true.
I like Rogan, especially his descriptions of what's going on the ground.
Yeah, you do have to give that to him.
Amazing.
He's also amazing.
I think, Rogan had I thought, the 148, I thought he was a little off, though.
Maybe he can be off.
Maybe he had bad weed. That's possible.
That's not possible. I think he's got only good weed.
Rogan?
His podcast, what the fuck? This guy puts on 3-hour podcasts like 3 or 4 days a week. I can't listen to all this shit.
Yeah, no, I think that's.
You listen to his podcast? I like listening to it, but there are just too many.
I like getting people's reviews of his podcast. The thought of actually listening to a 3-hour podcast makes me want to throw up. Sometimes I wonder how people listen to our 2-hour podcast, but I think we're fairly entertaining and random.
And we're just doing it once a week.
Yeah, we're just doing it once a week. We're not trying to force feed you this.
Like Rogan's making like 12 hours of radio a week, I think. And there was this Rogan database that would go through everything in detail, so you could just listen to what you wanted to. Because I actually enjoy listening to Rogan's podcast, depending on the guest.
Right.
And depending on how wacky Rogan gets with his...
He doesn't try to be like a comedian, does he? Because I don't think he's funny.
No. And I like his show on Comedy Central, but he doesn't really try to be a comedian. It's actually... Tommy Toehold's parody is pretty damn close to the type of conversations you get.
Yeah.
Crocodiles are related to dinosaurs. And what really killed out the dinosaurs? You think that if we, time's an illusion, so we can go back to that time period.
It's that pothead insight. Basically.
A lot of it is.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. And speaking of Tommy, make sure you check out his latest episode, which I thought was pretty funny. He has the Everyday MMA Fan on there.
That was awesome.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, the MMA bar guy or whatever. Yeah. Oh, my God.
With earrings.
I have a feeling we're going to see him.
You want to go, bro? Bro, you want to go?
I have a feeling we're going to see him again fairly soon. And again, I absolutely love Tommy. So youtube.com/Tommy Toehold. I hear Tommy has some really big news coming up soon. So bated breath, everyone. Bated breath.
Wow.
The show's going to 5 minutes.
Big news from Tommy Toehold. My show's going to 5 minutes.
It's so good. We've talked about it before.
Yes. It
such
is.
a great little weekly thing. Like every one is really filled with.
And you would think that he would be kind of a lot of people who have that kind of comedic sense. Their personalities tend to be a little bit more similar to it, but he isn't. His personality is he's a very like regular, everyday, nice guy when you talk to him, and then he comes up with this crazy crap for his show. So I do wonder if Tommy knows that we talk about him for at least 5 minutes every show.
Hopefully, he's listening.
We liked him first.
We did. We liked him first. He's
we introduced him to the world.
He does promote us on his shows. There, if you watch the show at the bottom where it scrolls stuff, it actually has he mentions us down there.
That's cool.
Yeah, he always has like really nice things to say about us too.
He loves us.
He's like, oh, these guys know what they're talking about, as we say dick joke after dick joke.
I love that Tommy's willing to lie for us. Okay, so real quick, we have 8 more minutes, and somehow we still managed to have dick jokes.
Hey, we have to at least discuss a little bit Strikeforce.
Yes. So, do you want to talk about the Strikeforce card, or do you want to talk about the contract dispute that kind of came out? We've talked about it before. As much as we understood it, really, this was just kind of someone saying
really
confirmation. Although I think it was a misunderstanding.
Yeah,
across the board.
Someone goes back to Dana White, twisting what Dave Meltzer said and creating a whole controversy again. But it turns out that what Meltzer said was exactly correct, which is, and I think we've touched upon it too, Erica, right? That Strikeforce fighters, even when their contracts expire, cannot go to UFC.
But that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't practice contract law under any whatever, but anybody who doesn't, they're going to ask you this question, and maybe one of you guys or both of you guys can explain this. Doesn't that sound an awful lot like making a contract on behalf of a third party without that third party's knowledge? Doesn't that sound a lot like that? Like we have a contract with each other, and there are people subcontracted to us, and based on our agreement, these people can't do something whether they want to do it or not. I didn't think that was legal. I didn't think that you could say, well, Kohi is working for me, for instance, and we have a deal with David. But me and David's deal says that at no point can Kohi go work for David. I can't do that. I can't say on Kohi's behalf that he can't come work for you once the contract's expired. Once the contract's expired, aren't all deals null and void at that point? I mean, you can't uphold a contract that doesn't exist anymore, right? I don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate here, like usual. But go ahead.
But
guys.
it's this whole thing is getting really weird because for a while they were saying, oh, it's the fighter contracts that the fighters are signing. Like I think the Showtime president was on Ara Holani's show, which of course I don't listen to, but I got bits and pieces of this. Was that the Showtime president said it was like, look, whatever the fighter contract says about them not being able to move around, that was something that the fighter signed. You'd have to look at each individual fighter contract to kind of determine that sort of thing. But then
what fighter would do that, though? What fighter would sign a contract that says, oh, yeah, by the way, you can never... It's not between the fighter and the organization, no. It's between Zuffa and Showtime. And that's
exactly. And that's what actually Dana White came out and said that yesterday, that it's between... for as long as Strikeforce, what is it, David? It's as long as Strikeforce is on Showtime, or as long as Zuffa owns Strikeforce.
No, it's as long as Showtime is airing Strikeforce. UFC cannot take over certain fighters. And again, the contract is between Zuffa and Showtime, which it's not really a restraint on someone's ability to these fighters could still go to Bellator. Yeah. As far as the legalities of the contract, generally speaking, you need to have standing to even raise an issue. And if it's not if you had a clause in a fighter's contract preventing him to do something to leave for somewhere after he's fought, depending on how long it's for and the parameters surrounding it, it might not be upheld in court. But
wasn't this? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as between Showtime and Zuffa, I don't even know who could bring a claim anyway. It's just a matter of Zuffa saying, we're not going to bring fighters into UFC as long as Strikeforce is airing on Showtime. And why would, and if UFC wanted to breach that contract, they could go, they could certainly try to do that, but it seems like this is just an agreement they made with Showtime to not pilfer any more of the talent.
But I can understand that, not pilfering the talent, meaning you're not plucking them directly out of the promotion like they did with Nick Diaz. But the part that I had a problem with was apparently once their contract expires, it can't have. I don't think that's right.
Well, again, I'm saying that who could bring that claim? Even if I would want to do research into case law on it. But you don't really have anyone that can even raise that claim, even if it wouldn't be upheld. It's a contract between Zuffa and Showtime, and Zuffa might want to uphold this agreement. And then who's going to bring a claim? Who's going to say you can't do this? You need to have a legal claim in front of a court before there's a decision. And if it's not between the fighter and the organization, the fighter's not going to be able to bring a contract claim on behalf of Showtime or Zuffa. I don't know if that makes sense.
A little bit. It does. I just
you need to have it's called privity of contract to even bring a claim.
But my thing is, I'm like you, David. I want to see and read I want to see what a standard Showtime or not standard for guys like Luke Rockhold and Gilbert Melendez and that sort of thing. I want to see what their contract is with Showtime, and then I want to see the contract between Zuffa or the fighter and Strikeforce, and then the contract between Strikeforce and Showtime, and then the contract between Zuffa and Showtime.
Okay. I mean,
I don't want to make too many crazy claims. Do I think it's kind of BS that as soon as essentially what Dana White said yesterday at the press conference was, once these guys become free agents, they can go anywhere they want except the UFC. Well, shit, that sucks.
Yeah.
But I want to I don't have an understanding of why that is, and I'm like you, Erica. It's that just doesn't.
Something doesn't seem right about it. But I understand what David is saying too. That that's kind of sneaky about them. If you don't put it in the fighter's contract, then the fighters don't have a right to really kind of bring a claim against it. And that was smart on their part. If that is what the contract is, if it's just between Zuffa and Showtime, that was a really smart move by them and their lawyers by not including anything in the fighter's contract themselves, because then they'd have a right to say something about it. But as it stands now, they don't.
In the fighter's contract, it might be void. And it might even be void, let's say, if Zuffa wanted to breach their contract with Showtime. They might be able to actually not be in breach. Maybe It's not an enforceable clause. But, if Zuffa wants to go along with it, that's the way it's going to be. And there's no one that could really bring that claim on their behalf. Because that would be the...
Well, what Dana said yesterday, is this deal kind of if Luke Rockhold became a free agent tomorrow, he could go anywhere he wants except for the UFC, as long as this Showtime and Strikeforce deal is still going on, which I believe ends in 2014, or as long as Zuffa actually owns Strikeforce. I think that was the other caveat. So I almost feel like there's your out right there. It's just sell Strikeforce and strip it of its whatever remnant it has.
I honestly don't think Strikeforce is going to be around much longer. I mean, the shows are getting further and further apart, and they have a few good fights left, and they really haven't been acquiring anybody. The women's division is with Invicta Fights. It seems like people are more happy with Invicta Fights than they were with Strikeforce. So I think that this may all be just an absolute.
And actually, Dave Meltzer's point was just that Ronda Rousey's fight should be on the Fox show or a UFC fight.
Oh my
God! And that it would
benefit
benefit Showtime to give her that type of exposure, and that Showtime should be going along with this. And that was his point. And then someone twisted it, and Dana White apparently had a conniption fit.
Right. Yeah.
And it turned out Meltzer, for what it appears to be correct in everything he actually said.
Right, and it was just misinterpreted by a lot of people and organizations and
people are fucking crazy. That's amazing how you can't even say anything without getting twisted.
All right, guys, it's 7:00. Let's go ahead and wrap up the show. Just real quick before we close out, just give me 2 minutes. Last night I did go see Dark Knight Rises.
Do not spoil it for me.
I will not spoil it for anybody.
We're just not going to do that.
That would spoil it for me to spoil it for some. That's how good that movie is. Spoiling it for somebody else spoils it for yourself. And let me say right now, Christopher Nolan, in my opinion, has directed and produced the best trilogy in the history of films right now. Consistently, 1, 2, and 3. You may not like 1 very much. You may not even like 3 very much. But together, all 3 of them together, they are absolute perfection. He thought everything through to the very last detail. It was an amazing movie. But having said that, I would also like to say on behalf of the show and Fight Fans Radio, our hearts go out to all the lives that were lost in Colorado last night. It's senseless act of violence.
Insane.
As a shooter went into a theater in Aurora, Colorado, and opened fire on an audience watching the movie. I believe he killed 12, and I think it's up to 70 are injured right now. So again, our hearts go out to those people.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and thankfully he wasn't smart enough to kill himself, and now he actually go on trial. So I hope he is thoroughly raped daily in prison by the biggest, blackest dude in that joint. I hope he's huge black. I mean, like Hector Lombard kind of huge black. And veiny, preferably very veiny. All right, guys. Any closing comments before we go ahead and peace out?
The only thing I wanted to say was, David and I were talking about this, earlier in the day when I kind of tossed an ideas of what we might talk about today. And as much as crap as I told David that Nate Marquardt was probably one of my top 5 favorite fighters before the whole TRT thing, and David and I had our own discussion about that. But his finish of Tyron Woodley is one of the most vicious, violent, amazing things I've ever seen in my entire life. I was watching a GIF file that in slow-mo on repeat, and I could watch it all day. It's absolutely phenomenal. If you haven't watched a fight, it's an awesome fight, and the finish just caps it off.
The only fight worth watching on that whole show.
I actually did not see it.
It really was.
It's definitely worth it to me to go ahead and go back and check it out. So
go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Anything from you, David?
I just want to point out how amazing it is that Nate Marquardt pulled that off without TRT.
Yes. Isn't it amazing how he had that
miraculous my mind is
cover?
blown. My mind is blown.
He and his wife are probably fighting all the time again, though.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I wanted to go on another TRT tangent, but we could save it for next week when we discover another few fighters who've been granted exceptions.
When we find out Uriah Faber is going to go on TRT and just move to the lightweight division.
Yeah.
My favorite's still Todd Duffy. That's still like the most glaring example of abuse of the system.
All right, and real quick, I just want to thank John Tackett for calling in. John Tackett is with Fighter Link, so please check them out on the web, fighterlink.com. Also check out their fight picking application. It's called Pick a Fight, and it is available through the iTunes Store as well through the Android. What is it called? Android Apps Center or whatever it's called. But it's available for both your iPhone and for your Android phone. So please check them out. We like
and get your picks in on Fantasy Fight League as well, so you can try and match them up with mine.
What else? Oh, gotta thank Finishers Fantasy Fight League. Visit them on the web, fantasymmaworld.com. Don't forget, send me your picks for the main event tomorrow, and we'll pick 2 people to get free entries for their 4th season of the fantasymmaworld.com. And check out their website for more information about their new game that they're setting up. And I think that's it for us. And I'm actually going to close the show in a kind of a weird way. Someone created a UFC 149 music video. It's called Hanan Barao Rao Rao. And it is extremely funny.
I heard about this. I can't wait.
And so I thought I'd play it for everybody. I thought it was worth playing. So, all right, everybody. Be safe and keep fighting. And we'll check you out next Friday, same time, same channel, 5 p.m. Fight Fans Radio. We are the Fanatics. Peace.
Row, row, Hanan, row, Hanan, row, 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 Hanan, row, Hanan, row, 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 Hanan, row, Hanan, row, 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 Hanan, row, Hanan, row, 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 weekend, I'll get a shiny new belt when I knock out the kid. Uriah and me, we gonna put on a show. Yeah, he'll try that guillotine, cause that's his MO. One thing that Hen and Barao don't. I've been a champ before and guarantee he'll choke. 29 in a row, yeah, that don't impress me. I've got badass cornrows and my own X-Wing.